Now we are going on with the lecture. We looked at last time the problem of clarity and detail that are common to all reports, and we saw examples of where things were not clear and not detailed. And now I want to look a little bit at again, at what kind of information is required. And of course, we have to look at information that's required, that is common to all reports. There are so many different kinds of reports that we can't possibly cover all the information in every report because each report has different requirements depending on what the report is supposed to be doing. It could be an accident report, or it could be a report for quality assurance, whatever. But right now I want to look then at a little bit at the kind of common things that reports need in terms of information. So let's review some of those again. First of all, you've got obviously the title and the report type have to be there. If it's a QA report, the title of the report has to reflect what you're investigating. You must have a date on it. These are just trivial things, but they have to be there. If they're not there, then that's not good. Who authorized the report is another important thing. The report was authorized by a certain agency or by a certain department of a company, by a company, committee, whatever it is. And the purpose of the report, very important. This is, the first three things are kind of simple to put in. I think any report template would have that in it right away. But the purpose of the report is very important here. Later we'll see how you write that up and where that comes in. But that information has to be in there somewhere. You can't just describe something without stating at the beginning why you're doing this report in the first place, what the report is supposed to be finding or testing or about, the purpose of the report. How it was investigated is another very important aspect. How you conducted the investigation in terms of, let's say, experimental procedures, testing procedures, or it could be just eyewitness accounts or observations, that type of thing. But it has to be stated how the investigation is to be conducted and how it actually occurred. Okay, we'll see the different places where you put that in a report when we get to the structure of reports. And of course, the findings. This is obviously the main thing in a report. What did you find? This could be, if it's a testing report like we saw in the earlier example, it has to give tables and whatever statistics come out of it of what findings resulted. You can have, if it's a report about an accident or anything of that sort, you have to share the findings of what you saw and what was observed and what came out of the investigation. Findings obviously are very important, and they have to be put in such a way that it's easy to find in the report and easy to understand. So it's put in a format that can be quickly digested because, again, reports are normally submitted to committees or to somebody making decisions, and they need to see the findings. It's one of the first things they'll look at so they can make an appropriate decision. All right, that's somebody you may recognize. That's Thomas Edison at work. And you may notice that he's writing up a report. He wrote a lot of reports in his day. Besides being a very creative inventor, he wrote thousands of patents that not only were important in terms of the invention itself, but also for his business, because when you write a patent, you therefore protect your findings and your inventions. So he's an example of somebody who knew how to write lots of reports, and that's why I put him in there. And what I want to look at now, just briefly, is the idea of quality of information, which was actually the third thing that I stated originally. He said that you have to write clearly and with detail. We said that the report has to include detail that is somehow of quality. In other words, it has detail that can be what I call supportable, or you would call it verifiable. And that's very important because reports cannot include your personal feelings or your impressions and things like that. It has to be stated in an objective way so that, and you have to be able to objectively verify your findings in some way. So first of all, the information should come from a recognized source. It could be your own testimony. It could be experimental data that you've gotten from the company's laboratory. It may be the results from other recognized labs. It might be peer-reviewed articles, meaning that articles that have real scientific basis and not just, Wikipedia is a great source, but it's not really a source that you want to quote in a report because it doesn't have official, what they call peer review. In other words, other academics are not really reviewing it and criticizing it necessarily. Anybody can actually come onto Wikipedia and put their 2 cents in, so you can't use that as a source for a report. And in general, you want to find information could also come from eyewitness or from other people telling you things for interviews. Okay, but you have to make sure that you quote those people and that you put it in such a way that the information can be followed up later by someone else and checked to make sure that it's accurate and corresponds to reality. You should make sure it's detailed. We already went through that earlier. You can't assume that the reader can just fill in the gaps. The report has to supply all the details so even a reader unfamiliar with the area can understand it, meaning that you have to explain various concepts, give a background, which we'll see soon also where that comes in, but you should have some type of information that gives a background to what you're doing so people can understand the concepts in which you're working. There's certain elements you don't want to leave out, background concepts that I just mentioned. Steps. When you're giving a procedure and telling you how you investigated something or what procedure you adopted, you have to give each step, show what happened. And how you've designed the experiment and the way you follow the design. And of course, the details of your findings should be accurate and should give all the information that people need to make any kind of assessment or decision about the area you're investigating. Okay, now I'm going to show you more examples of reports in light of what we just discussed, and we'll look for some of these aspects of verifiability and where the purpose of the report is stated, that type of thing that we just went over.